I just realized, where is it? That the toddler must have added to the Christmas tree. Anyone else get decorations added and taken away? I probably should have redecorated. This tree has been used a lot between a cat and a toddler. Hey friends, today I want to share some Christmas and winter book recommendations, all while drinking my favorite dairy-free hot cocoa. Hopefully I don't have too much chocolate in my teeth. So most of these books are like actually winter themed, but I think I managed to find 3 Christmas books, so I'm going to start with those since Christmas is at the beginning of winter, and then we will carry on to the more winter-ish books. The first one I want to share is such a classic, and that is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I'm not necessarily the biggest Dickens fan. He takes a lot of pages to say not a whole lot generally, because he was paid by word for a lot of his books, if you didn't know that. But I'm thinking maybe A Christmas Carol was not one of those books because it has just over 100 pages, and this can be read within like an hour or two. And it's just the perfect, I don't know, perfect Christmas book. I grew up watching Mickey's Christmas Carol every year, and I feel like they did a really good job of following the book. Next up is a Christmas book I read last year. You can kind of argue that it's not really a Christmas book. This is Hercule Poirot's Christmas. So it's a murder mystery, and I believe this is Agatha Christie's bloodiest murder mystery ever written. But it takes place over Christmas, so there's that. Not 100% Christmas vibes, but it's an interesting one. So it's Christmas time, a bunch of people get together, kind of like a family gathering, plus a few people, and a very bloody murder happens, and Poirot has to figure it out. And you know, if you know Poirot, he definitely figures it out, even though it's a weird one. I found this one interesting. I read it last Christmas, and quite enjoyed it, even though it didn't really put me in the Christmas spirit. And then my last like Christmas book on this list is Catching Christmas by Terry Blackstock. I read this book about a week ago, and you guys, like, this just made me like tear up, and like I stayed up till after midnight reading it, which I don't do, and then was just like tears streaming down my face. So we follow a Luke Danes from the Gilmore Girls-esque type guy who is a cab driver in this book, and he has to chauffeur this old lady around kind of like the week before Christmas. She's running all sorts of errands. She is like sick of some sort. It kind of seems very forgetful. She keeps going to all these single men and trying to set up her grandmother with them, trying to get them to come to Christmas so she can set them up. And she keeps telling these old men, like, or not old men, like these men, you know, she's a really nice girl or sweet girl, and they have to be like, I'm sure she's a sweet lady, but I'm not gonna come to your Christmas. Anyway, and this book has a lot of like good like Gilmore Girls-esque banter, you know, back and forth, and humor, and I really enjoyed it. It was funny and made me cry, so I would highly recommend this. This is a really good one for getting you in the Christmas spirit. I have a variety of books here. There's everything, and we've got some middle grade. So I wanted to add The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe to your winter reading list if it's not already. This is the perfect winter read. I love Narnia. This one is my absolute favorite, like most people. We follow Lucy, Edmund, Peter, and Susan as they fall into the wardrobe and go into the land of Narnia, where it is always winter and never Christmas. So I think it's a good one to read maybe after Christmas. I love the story. I love the movie. We actually just watched the movie recently as a family, and it's such a heartwarming story. I love so much about it. So how about we go completely opposite from heartwarming and go to a thriller. This is No Exit. This book takes place over Christmas, or Christmas Eve, so I feel like it's perfect for this time of year. There is a huge blizzard, which our main character, she's driving home from college to get home for Christmas, but she can't make it because it's just crazy snowing, and she stops at a rest stop where there's a few other people, and she goes out to her car to grab something and finds out that there is a girl in a cage in the vehicle next to her, and this story is pretty much her trying to figure out, you know, how to get this girl out. How much is she willing to risk herself in order to save this girl? And I found the like moral dilemma so interesting. There are twists in here that are really good. There is quite a bit of language and quite a bit of like violence slash body horror. I skimmed the violent pages, but if you can handle that, this was a really interesting read and it made me think a lot. Let's go for a classic. I don't read many classics, but I love this one. This is Little Women. This one, I think it actually starts out on Christmas Eve, if I'm correct. It spans over the course of many years. We follow Jo, Beth, Meg, and Amy. So 4 sisters. Their father is off at war, I think. And yeah, they have lots of things happen, lots of growth, lots of challenges. This is, yeah, probably the first classic. I remember reading this one in high school. The first classic that I like truly enjoyed, and I still really love it to this day. In the World War II historical fiction genre, I would say The Book Thief. This book is so intriguing because it is narrated by death. I don't know, I've never read a book that's been narrated by death, and that was so interesting to me. So in this one, we follow, what's the girl's name? It starts with an L. I'm blanking. But like a teenage girl that goes to live with this couple, and they end up hiding a Jewish boy, and lots of things go down. There are so many World War II historical fiction books, but I feel like this is one of my absolute favorites. How about historical fiction with a fantasy twist? This is Romanov. So we follow the Romanov family, who used to be in charge of Russia, I believe, right? I'm not good with this kind of stuff. But they were on house arrest for a long time. I don't even know. I think this book maybe only spans like 6-ish months if I remember correctly, but don't quote me on that. One thing that I love about the Romanovs is this happened in real life. It happens in this book. They were so kind to their guards and the people like keeping them on house arrest that they actually regularly needed to change the guards because they would get sympathetic to the family and they were worried that they would be like smuggling stuff in for them and all that stuff. It just makes me wonder, like, if I was on house arrest, how nice would I be to the people that were keeping me there? I mean, I like being at home, but they had a lot of not nice people there, and I just can't imagine showing people love when it's hard, because I have a hard time doing that with my own family sometimes. But the twist is there is like some magic in this world as well. Yeah, I don't even remember what all happens as far as the magic part goes, but I really enjoy the Romanov story told in this way. Now it's time for a hot cocoa break. And I probably have it all over my face. Next up, let's go for kind of like a classic thriller, apparently. This is Rebecca. I read this earlier this year and didn't like it. But once I got to the end, I was like, oh, I need to reread this because I think I'll like it more. So I would like to reread this book probably not already this winter, but soon. We follow a woman who marries this man whose wife had previously died, and they go home to his home, and she feels like she's following, like, living in the shadow of Rebecca, the wife. Like, our main character actually never even has a name. Yeah, the ending kind of blew my mind. I did not see that coming, and so I really want to reread this eventually. The line between this is a book that I recently read. We have a main character who is just kicked out of a cult at the beginning of the book, and a worldwide pandemic that is spread through a virus, and people are wearing gloves and masks and things are getting shut down. So trigger warning if pandemics are a trigger for you, don't read this. But like, this book was so interesting. The cult aspect, the pandemic aspect, I really, really enjoyed this. Then my absolute favorite movie has been A Little Princess, pretty much forever. That and You've Got Mail. So I would recommend reading this book. There we follow Sarah, who is a wealthy girl. She goes to a boarding school while her father goes off to war, and he dies, and she loses everything and she becomes a servant. And the way she carries herself through the book and the movie is so great. I definitely recommend like the 1995 version of the movie. The ending of that movie is better than this book, but I still really love the book. Okay, I had to add this book onto the list because this is one of my favorites. This is The Curse of Misty, Wayfare. This is a romantic suspense, but like light on the romance and like heavy on the suspense. We follow two timelines here. So 1907-ish, we follow a post-mortem photographer. If you followed my reading vlog back a few months ago when I read this book, I shared some pictures. This was a thing. People would take pictures with their dead loved ones as though their dead loved ones were alive. Creepy. And there's ghosts in here, but not real ghosts. It's explainable. And then there's like modern day timeline where there are, I don't know, there's so many mysteries, and there's so much going on in this book, but there's so much I don't want to share because I don't want to spoil anything. So I highly, if you pick up like one of the books off of this list, I would recommend it being this one. And the last one I'm going to add here is Safely Home. This is kind of like modern day, but this talks about persecution in the Chinese church, and one of our main characters is from North America and one is from China, and kind of just talks about their journey. And oh man, like thinking about what they go through in China as Christians, and how you have to like not hide your faith, but you know, you have to be discreet and go to underground church. And this book really like blew me away, and I feel like it would be such a good read for December, January, cold months, because one of our main characters goes to prison, and you know, he just like cold, feeling for them with no food. It seems like the perfect time to read this. I would love to hear what some of your favorite Christmas and winter books are, any recommendations you have for me. I have quite a few books I want to read this winter that I haven't gotten to yet, so I didn't want to recommend them. I wanted to stick with just books that I'd read. But I feel like I've left you with a number of good recommendations, and I hope you enjoy the books. Thanks for watching, guys.